What happens when the man you laugh at for using a black card turns out to own your hotel chain? Let me tell you, it cost them $2.8 billion. Sir, I'm going to need to see another form of payment, the young man behind the counter said, his lips curling into something between a smirk and a laugh. The hotel lobby fell silent for half a beat. Then the chuckles started, first from a man in a navy blazer standing off to the side, then a couple waiting near the elevator joined in. Their laughter wasn't loud, but it was sharp, cutting. Marcus Ellington kept his eyes on the clerk, calm. His face gave away nothing, but inside he felt the familiar sting. Not because they doubted his card, but because they doubted him. The black card in his hand gleamed under the lobby lights. It wasn't a cheap knockoff. It wasn't a gimmick. It was real. The kind of card that opens doors to private airport lounges, elite events, and five-star treatment. But the clerk didn't see that. He saw a black man in a plain gray hoodie, jeans, and worn sneakers. No entourage, no designer luggage. No hint that this man could buy this entire building and half the block if he wanted to. Marcus said nothing, just held the card out again, slow, steady. Sir, the clerk repeated, louder now like he wanted an audience. This is a Centurion, right? Amex Black? You, sure this is yours? His eyes flicked up and down Marcus like he was scanning for proof he wasn't going to get. 'Cause, these aren't exactly handed out at the mall. More laughter rippled through the lobby. A woman whispered something to her friend, eyes locked on Marcus like he was trying to run a scam. Marcus let the words hang in the air. Calm was his armor. It's mine, he said simply. His voice didn't rise, didn't crack, just steady. The clerk leaned forward, lowering his voice to a fake whisper that was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Look, man, no offense, but I've seen a lot of situations like this. Somebody swipes a friend's card, thinks they can slide through for the weekend. So why don't you save us both some time and give me something else? Or cash? Something in Marcus's jaw twitched. He took a breath, deep, slow. His whole life, moments like this had been trying to pull him into the trap. Lash out, prove them wrong, give them the show they were looking for. Not tonight. Behind him, a man in a golf cap murmured, "Knew it wasn't his." Another chuckle. The clerk tapped the counter impatiently. Sir, another card, or ID that matches the name on this. Marcus reached into his wallet, pulled out his ID, placed it gently next to the card. That enough for you? The clerk picked it up, glanced at the name, then back at Marcus. He laughed, a short, dry laugh. Marcus Ellington? Nice try, man. You know what a black card means? You gotta spend at least... He stopped, waving his hand like the numbers didn't matter. Forget it. Look, I'll run it, but don't get mad when it declines. He ran it. The machine beeped, approved. The smile slid off his face, but instead of apologizing, the clerk forced a laugh, sliding the card back like it was no big deal. Guess it's real then. Congrats. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Marcus took his card, his key, and turned without a word. He could feel the stairs burning into his back as he walked toward the elevator. Every step felt heavy. Not because he cared about what they thought, but because he knew something they didn't. Tomorrow, this same clerk would stand in a room he didn't belong in and watch his entire company's future vanish in a single sentence. But Marcus wasn't ready to let him off that easy just yet. 5 hours earlier, Marcus Ellington was cruising down Interstate 10, the soft hum of tires against asphalt filling his rented black SUV. Outside, the windows stretched the warm glow of late afternoon, the kind of sun that made everything look golden. He wasn't dressed for attention. Gray hoodie, jeans, and an old pair of sneakers that had seen better days. That was intentional. The whole point of this trip wasn't to be recognized. He wasn't here to sign autographs or pose for selfies. He was here to see something raw, unfiltered. The truth. For the world, Marcus was a name attached to headlines. Real estate visionary breaks $10 billion mark. Urban renewal titan reshapes American skylines. They wrote about his investments, his strategies, his bold moves in cities like Phoenix, Tampa, and Austin. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, he was just Marcus. A man who started with nothing. Literally nothing. No trust fund, no big name connections. Just grit, and a mother who worked double shifts at a diner in Beaumont, Texas, so her son could dream big. He remembered those nights vividly. Her coming home in a faded blue uniform, smelling like fried eggs and coffee, dropping coins into an old glass jar labeled rent. "One day," she used to say, "you're going to stay in places like the folks I serve, but you ain't never going to act like them." And he didn't. When the money came, he stayed humble. No flashy chains, no screaming his net worth on social media, just clean deals and quiet moves, which is exactly why he was pulling up to this hotel in San Antonio, one of the crown jewels in the chain his company was about to invest in, $2.8 billion on the line. But here's the thing, contracts and spreadsheets tell you numbers, not character. And Marcus believed character was everything. "You can't fake respect," he told his board. "If they treat the little guy bad, they'll treat us bad too." So instead of flying in on a private jet and letting executives roll out the red carpet, he booked a regular room under his own name. No assistant, no suit, just him. As he pulled into the hotel's circular driveway, he glanced at the grand glass doors. Guests glided in and out, bellhops in crisp uniforms handling luggage with precision. It looked perfect on the outside. But Marcus knew better than anyone. Shiny surfaces hide cracks. He parked, grabbed his single duffel bag, and headed inside. The cool blast of air conditioning hit him as he crossed the lobby, taking in the marble floors, the chandelier dripping crystals like frozen rain. It was beautiful, sure, but beauty doesn't make people decent. At the counter, a young clerk glanced up briefly, then back down at his screen without a smile. No welcome, sir, no warmth. Marcus noticed. He always noticed. He set his wallet on the counter, waiting. The clerk kept typing. 10 seconds, 20. Finally, a flat, "Checking in?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, under Ellington." The clerk typed again, jaw tight, like every keystroke was personal. Then came the question Marcus expected, ID and card. He handed them over calm as ever. And that's when it started, the smirk, the laugh, the whispers behind him. Marcus had walked through storms to get here, but storms leave scars. And this wasn't about a card. This was about something deeper. But if the clerk thought tonight was just another night at work, he was about to learn how wrong he was. The sliding glass doors parted with a gentle swoosh as Marcus stepped inside. The air was cool and crisp, a sharp contrast to the heavy warmth of the Texas evening outside. The lobby was spotless, polished to perfection, glossy marble floors reflecting a chandelier that probably cost more than most people's cars. Guests lounged on leather chairs, sipping cocktails from tall glasses with thin slices of lime. Everything screamed luxury, but Marcus knew better. Money buys shine, not sincerity. He took a slow look around, catching details most people would miss. The front desk clerk laughing a little too loudly with a blonde guest while ignoring the couple that had been waiting patiently in line. The way the bellhop's smile faded the second his tip hit the tray. Marcus walked up to the front desk with his duffel bag slung over one shoulder. The clerk, early 20s, sharp jawline, perfect hair styled like he practiced for hours, barely glanced up. His name tag read Tyler. "Checking in?" Tyler's tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't friendly either. Just flat. Like Marcus was an interruption to whatever he was scrolling through before he looked up. "Yes," Marcus replied calmly. "Under Ellington." Tyler typed something, not looking up again. Seconds stretched. 10, 15. Marcus stayed patient. He'd seen this before, plenty of times. The little things, the sighs, the way people decide who you are before you even speak. Finally, Tyler muttered, "ID and card." Marcus handed both over without a word. His American Express Centurion card slid across the counter like a piece of black steel, weighty and quiet. Tyler glanced at it, and that's when Marcus saw it. That smirk, that flicker in his eyes that said he didn't believe what he was looking at. "Oh, wow," Tyler said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "The black card. Haven't seen one of these in a while." He held it up slightly, like he was showing it off to the crowd. Two women sitting nearby looked over. One of them snickered. Marcus kept his eyes steady, calm as still water. Tyler leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough to make it obvious he wanted people to hear. "You sure this is yours?" The question hung there, heavy. Marcus tilted his head slightly, his tone even. "You asked that to everyone?" Tyler laughed. Not a real laugh. That fake sharp laugh people use when they think they've caught you. "Look, man, don't take it personal. It's just, these aren't exactly common." He turned the card over in his hands like it was a toy. I mean, what's the annual spend on this? Like $500,000? More? He gave Marcus a quick once-over. Hoodie, jeans, beat-up sneakers. No offense, but you don't exactly look like the type. The type. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd heard that line before, just dressed in different words. Back when he was 15 and security followed him through a store. Back when he was 20 and a banker said, "Maybe this is too much house for you." Every time the same sting. Not from doubt, but from disrespect. Before Marcus could answer, a man in a golf cap whispered to his wife behind him, "Called it. No way that's his." Another chuckle rolled through the lobby like a slow wave. Tyler grinned wider now, thinking he had an audience. "Tell you what, why don't you give me another card? Or maybe cash? Save us the trouble when this declines." The words didn't sting Marcus. They just settled deep, like a stone at the bottom of a lake. He stayed calm, voice like ice. "Run it." Tyler hesitated, then swiped it through the machine. The green light blinked, approved. Silence followed for a split second. Then Tyler forced a laugh to cover his embarrassment. "Well, guess it's real then. Congrats, Mr. Ellington." He slid the card back, still smirking. Marcus took his card, picked up his key card, and walked away without another word. But his mind was already working, calculating, filing every detail. Tomorrow, Tyler was going to learn something about respect. But Marcus wasn't planning to lecture him. He was planning to show him. Marcus walked toward the elevator, keycard in hand, his sneakers making soft taps against the marble floor. Behind him, the whispers didn't stop. He caught fragments. Probably borrowed it. Must have saved up for a year. "You see those shoes?" The doors slid open, and he stepped inside alone. The ride up was quiet, but his thoughts weren't. This wasn't about embarrassment. Marcus had long stopped caring what strangers thought of him. This was about something bigger. The culture inside a company that was about to be tied to his name and his money. If this was how they treated someone they assumed had nothing, what did that say about their values? He exhaled slowly, pressing the button for his floor. "Just watch," he muttered to himself. By the time Marcus settled into his room, sleek, modern, king bed centered like a stage, he had made up his mind. No rash moves tonight, no storming downstairs. Patience had built his empire, and patience would win this too. But the night wasn't done testing him. Around 8:30 p.m., Marcus decided to grab dinner from the hotel restaurant. He changed into a clean polo and dark jeans. Not flashy, still simple. When he walked in, the maitre d' greeted the couple in front of him like royalty. Big smile, warm tone. When Marcus stepped up, the smile dropped. "Reservation?" the man asked flatly, eyes skimming Marcus up and down. "No," Marcus replied evenly. "Just one." The maitre d' didn't move right away. He glanced toward the half-empty dining room, then back at Marcus. "It might be a while." Marcus looked past him at 3 empty tables. He just nodded. "I'll wait." "Uh-huh." The man walked off without offering him a menu. Marcus sat at the bar instead, ordered a steak, and ate in silence while the maitre d' laughed it up with other guests across the room. Every detail filed away, every gesture noted. By the time he returned to his room, Marcus wasn't angry. He was focused. Tomorrow, every mask in this building was coming off. Morning came bright and early. Marcus woke at 6, showered and dressed sharply this time, a tailored navy suit, white shirt, and a tie that spoke quiet authority. He slipped on polished shoes and glanced in the mirror. Same man as last night, same face, same skin, different packaging, and people would treat him differently for it. As he left his room, his phone buzzed. A reminder of the 9 a.m. meeting in the Magnolia conference room. The final sit-down before signing the $2.8 billion expansion deal. The hotel executives didn't know he was staying in the building. They expected him to arrive with an entourage, a big entrance. Instead, he walked past the front desk like any other guest. Tyler was there, leaning on the counter, laughing with a coworker. His voice carried. "Man, last night was wild. Dude rolled up with a black card like he was somebody. Almost told him, 'Bro, you ain't fooling nobody.'" The coworker snickered. "For real? What happened?" "Card worked," Tyler said with a shrug. "Lucky guess, I guess. Probably some rapper's cousin." He laughed again, loud enough for Marcus to hear as he walked by. Marcus didn't break stride, didn't even glance their way. His time was coming. Inside the Magnolia room, the mood was electric. Long mahogany table, carafes of coffee, platters of fruit. The suits were already there, regional managers, VPs, the hotel chain's CEO himself, a silver-haired man named Robert Sinclair. They stood when Marcus entered, smiles stretching wide. "Mr. Ellington! Welcome, welcome," Sinclair said, extending both hands like he was greeting royalty. "We are honored to have you here." Marcus smiled faintly. "Morning, gentlemen." They shuffled papers, adjusted ties, all eager to impress. Deals this size don't happen every day. "We've prepared the final proposal," Sinclair said, sliding a sleek folder toward him. "This partnership will redefine the luxury experience across the country. 2.8 billion, fully integrated expansion." Marcus raised a hand slightly, cutting him off without raising his voice. "Before we get into numbers, let me ask you something." The room went still. "How do you think your staff treats your guests when no one's watching?" Sinclair blinked. "Excuse me?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, calm but firm. "Because I checked in here last night, no suit, no headlines, just me. And what I saw?" He shook his head slowly. "Wasn't respect. It was arrogance. It was prejudice. And it tells me everything I need to know about the culture you're running." The color drained from Sinclair's face. "Mr. Ellington, I assure you, if there was any misunderstanding—" "There wasn't," Marcus said sharply. "I was mocked in your lobby, laughed at, for carrying a card that, frankly, pays your salaries. Your staff made assumptions about who I am based on how I look. And you want me to invest billions into that?" Whispers rippled around the table. Someone cleared their throat nervously. Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket with a slow, deliberate motion. "Gentlemen, this deal is off." The words hit like a gunshot. Sinclair stammered, "Off, Mr. Ellington, please." Marcus's eyes were ice. "Respect isn't negotiable. Not at 2.8 billion, not at $2. Fix your house before you invite people in." He turned and walked out, leaving stunned silence behind him. But the real show wasn't in that room. It was waiting outside. The elevator doors slid open, and Marcus stepped into his suite after the chaos of the lobby earlier that night. He tossed his keycard on the dresser and sat at the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees. The city lights blinked beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but Marcus barely saw them. He wasn't angry, not in the way most people think of anger. No yelling, no pacing, just a heavy, still kind of fire burning low in his chest. This wasn't about a card. It wasn't even about Tyler. It was about the silent rules people still played by. Rules that said success has a look. Rules that said you could spend your whole life earning a seat at the table, and someone would still question if you belonged. Marcus thought about his mother again, about those nights when she came home with her hands aching, dropping coins into that jar labeled rent. About the times he promised himself he'd make her life easier, that he'd make it big without ever letting the world change who he was. And now, here he was, bigger than he ever dreamed, and still, the assumptions didn't stop. He let out a breath, slow and steady, and glanced at his watch. Tomorrow was the final meeting, the deal, the moment everyone had been working toward for months. $2.8 billion on the line. Marcus leaned back, a small smile tugging at his lips. Not a happy smile, a knowing one. "They think last night was a win," he whispered. "They have no idea what's coming." He slept like a man with a plan. Morning broke bright and clear. Marcus rose before the sun, showered, and dressed like the man the world knew him as. A navy suit tailored to perfection, crisp white shirt, tie-knotted show. Sharp, polished shoes that clicked with authority. Same man, same name, different presentation. And that was the point. At 8:50 a.m., he left his room, phone in hand, and headed for the Magnolia conference room. The reminder buzzed on his screen. Final negotiation, 2.8B. Walking through the lobby was a different experience this time. Heads turned. The bellhop who ignored him last night nearly tripped over himself offering help. Guests smiled, staff straightened. Same man, different clothes. Tyler was at the desk again, hair perfect, grin wide as he chatted with another employee. He didn't even glance at Marcus this time. Why would he? People like Tyler didn't see you until the world told them you mattered. Marcus kept walking. His steps were calm, but every one of them carried purpose. Because today wasn't just about money. It was about sending a message that no one in that building would forget. But Tyler's lesson wasn't over yet, and Marcus was going to make sure it stayed with him for the rest of his life. The Magnolia conference room shimmered with quiet elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a skyline painted in morning gold, while a mahogany table stretched the length of the room like a runway. Laptops glowed. Crystal pitchers of water stood ready. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a coronation. The hotel chain's heavyweights were already seated, their suits pressed so sharp they could cut glass. Robert Sinclair, the CEO, sat at the head, silver hair combed to perfection, his cufflinks catching the light. When Marcus entered, every chair shifted. Every conversation died mid-sentence. "Mr. Ellington!" Sinclair's voice rang with forced warmth, his smile stretching wide as he moved around the table like a politician on election day. "Welcome. It's an honor, truly." Marcus shook his hand lightly, his grip firm but not flashy. "Morning." His voice was calm, level, almost cold. They ushered him to the seat at the head of the table opposite Sinclair. Coffee was poured instantly. A young assistant practically sprinted to pull out his chair. The contrast from last night didn't escape Marcus. Same man, same name. But now, the title came with visible power, and suddenly, everyone was a servant. The presentation began immediately. Slides clicked on the giant screen. Projected profits, architectural renderings of luxury expansions, language dripping with corporate promises. Marcus listened in silence, his eyes steady, his hands folded neatly in front of him. Finally, Sinclair leaned forward, confidence oozing from every word. "We are thrilled about this partnership. With Ellington Global backing us, we're talking about a revolution in hospitality." He smiled, almost daring Marcus to disagree. "This contract," he tapped the sleek folder, "is the key to making history." Marcus let the room breathe for a moment before he spoke. "Before we talk numbers, I have a question." The tone of his voice pulled every head toward him. The tapping of pens stopped. Even the assistant stopped typing. Sinclair straightened. "Of course. Anything." Marcus's gaze swept the table slowly, catching each pair of expectant eyes. "When you picture your brand," he began, voice low but carrying weight, "what's the first word that comes to mind?" Sinclair blinked, unsure where this was going. "Excellence," he said finally, sitting taller. "Excellence," Marcus repeated softly. "Good word." He leaned forward slightly. "And you believe excellence starts where?" "In our properties, in our service," Sinclair answered quickly. Marcus nodded slowly. "Service. That's what I wanted to hear." He paused just long enough for the silence to feel heavy. "Because last night, I stayed in this hotel, checked in at your front desk, ate in your restaurant." Sinclair smiled nervously. "That's wonderful to hear. I hope everything met your expectations." "It didn't." Marcus's tone cut clean through the room like a blade. The air changed. Someone shifted uncomfortably in their chair. Marcus kept going, his voice calm but cold. "Your staff laughed at me, mocked me, assumed I didn't belong. They didn't know my name yet, but they made sure to let me know what they thought of me. And you know what the sad part is?" He leaned back, his eyes locking on Sinclair's. "They thought they were safe because no one important was watching." Sinclair's mouth opened, then closed, his face drained of color. "Mr. Ellington, I can assure you this is an isolated—" "Stop." Marcus didn't raise his voice, but the command in that single word silenced the entire room. "This is not about one clerk. This is about culture, about leadership, about what you allow to exist under your roof." No one moved. No one spoke. Marcus stood slowly, buttoning his jacket with deliberate precision. $2.8 billion. That's what's on this table. But let me be very clear. Respect is not negotiable. Not at $2 billion, not at $2. He slid the untouched folder back across the table toward Sinclair. The sound of paper against wood was deafening in the silence. "This deal," Marcus said, his voice even, controlled, "it's over." Gasps broke the quiet. One executive stammered, "Mr. Ellington, surely we can—" "There is no surely," Marcus cut in. His eyes swept the table, pinning every face in place. "You want to build towers and brag about luxury? Start with humanity. Because if you can't treat a man with respect before you know what he's worth, then your brand isn't worth mine. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sinclair looked like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. His lips parted, but nothing came out. Marcus adjusted his cufflinks, smooth and calm, as if canceling a $2.8 billion deal was just another Tuesday. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "good luck fixing your house before you invite guests in." Then he turned and walked out, leaving stunned silence in his wake. But Marcus wasn't done. Not yet. The real lesson was waiting in the lobby. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and Marcus stepped into the lobby like nothing had happened. His presence hit the room differently now. Navy suit, polished shoes, quiet authority radiating from every step. Guests turned, staff straightened. The same people who smirked last night were suddenly all smiles. Amazing what a tailored suit could do in a world that judged books by their covers. And then there was Tyler. He was behind the counter, laughing again with the same coworker, like the night before had been just another story to brag about. His grin froze when he saw Marcus approaching. For a second, his brain didn't connect the dots, until Marcus stopped right in front of him. "Mr. Ellington?" Tyler's voice cracked slightly, eyes darting to the polished conference badge clipped to Marcus's jacket. Marcus leaned on the counter casually, his tone calm. "Good morning, Tyler." The name on his tag, spoken like Marcus had owned it for years, made him swallow hard. "How's your morning going?" Marcus asked. Good, sir." Tyler's fake confidence was crumbling like old plaster. "Glad to hear it," Marcus said, his eyes locking on his. "I just left a meeting upstairs, big meeting. You know the deal your bosses were counting on?" Tyler nodded slowly, sweat beginning to bead at his temple. "It's gone," Marcus said, his voice like steel wrapped in silk. $2.8 billion, gone. Because I got to see what kind of culture this hotel really has. The color drained from Tyler's face. "Sir, I didn't mean—" "You didn't think," Marcus cut in, still calm, still cool. "You thought you were safe behind a desk, making jokes, judging people who didn't fit your little picture of success." He leaned in slightly. "Here's your lesson, Tyler. The person you disrespect today might be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow." The lobby was dead silent. Every word carried like a drumbeat. Marcus straightened, smoothed his jacket, and stepped back. "You have a good day now." He turned and walked toward the exit without looking back. Behind him, whispers swirled like a storm. Staff staring, guests frozen. Tyler standing pale and speechless, holding on to the edge of the counter like it could keep him from collapsing. Outside, the Texas sun hit Marcus full on. He slid on his sunglasses, calm as ever. Another black SUV pulled up, driver jumping out to open the door. Marcus climbed in, the car gliding away from the curb like nothing had happened. Except everything had. Because Marcus knew this wasn't just about a hotel or a clerk. It was about a truth too many people forget. Titles don't make you important. Money doesn't make you worthy. The only real luxury you can afford someone is respect. Life has a way of testing us in the small moments, the ones that don't make headlines, the ones nobody claps for. Those moments, they reveal who we are. So treat people right, not because of what they have, but because of who they are. You never know who's watching. You never know whose life or deal you're about to affect. If you believe respect is non-negotiable, share this story, because the world needs more reminders that character still matters.